Hi everyone, this is Charity from Group 3 and I'm with my co-members Lara Angelica Lupo, Luis Art Digamo, Adeline Digamo, and Jenry Goloran and Ria Nicole Huyuan. And I'm the one to discuss with the topic Deaf Education. Objectives: to collaborate with Institute of Teachers Training for the Deaf, to disseminate information concerning deafness, deaf and hard of hearing person, explain the different educational settings, know the pros and cons of different education settings, to promote studies on auditory system diseases and rehabilitation for deaf. Identifying deaf students. Children may be identified as the candidates for deaf education from their audiogram or medical history. Audiogram means the measurements of how deaf students or deaf persons can hear something or someone speaking. If you talk to a deaf person, students they may turn their ear towards you so that they can hear you better. They might look concerned when you speak to them. Sometimes they could ask you to repeat something because they have not heard. First, not responding when their name is called. Watching your lips intently as you speak. Next, speaking too loudly or quietly. Next, watching others do something before attempting it themselves. Before they do themselves, they must observe others. Next, delay speech and communication development. Their communication and speaking abilities is not the same to the others, a normal person. Mishearing or mispronouncing words. Not being able to hear what's happening if there is any background noise. And lastly, difficulty with reading and linking it to speech. Individual needs. Sign language helps students with deaf to find easy way to communicate on a deeper level. Their ability to learn their native language improves. Cued speech, a building block that helps children who are deaf and have hard of hearing better understand spoken language. Hearing aid, may able to improve hearing, can increase awareness of speech and other sounds around you or around students with deaf. Oral interpreting is the education of deaf students through oral language by using lip reading and mimicking the mouth shapes and breathing patterns of speech. Hearing body, his or her side friend. Hearing body can help students with deaf to able to interpret the information with deaf students miss. And lastly, teaching and guiding. These students need a hand to teach and guide them to develop and improve their abilities to speak and communicate with others. And that's all for my topic. And the next reporter will be Adeline Digamo and Luis Art Digamo.
Hi everyone, good day to you all. I am Adeline A. Digamo, and today me and Luis, we are going to discuss about educational settings in deaf education. So, let's begin. First, let us know the general meaning of educational settings. So, what are educational settings? So, these are places that offers educational services to students according to their specific needs or objectives. So, as you can see there, I underlined the word places because it could be private or public schools, institutions, alternative schools, hospitals, rehabilitation centers, residential facilities, and many more. Also, I highlighted the phrase educational services. So all of these institutions or all of these places, all of the places that I have mentioned earlier, the main goal is to offer educational services. So, in deaf education, there are many types of educational settings as well. This includes total communication, like this one is like a rehab center for communication. Next is sign language schools. We have Deaf Institute, State School for the Deaf, Manual School, and next is Oral School, general education schools, self-contained classrooms, and many more deaf schools around the world. Okay, so all of these places belong to a more specific kind of setting. So today we are going to discuss the two major parts of educational settings, specifically in deaf education. These two are specialized settings and mainstream settings. And we are also going to discuss about the pros and cons of different educational settings. First is specialized settings. So, specialized is defined as something that is more specified or directed toward a specific goal. Like again, it's more specified or directed toward a specific goal. It is designed for a particular purpose. Like, for example, Deaf Institute, meaning students who are enrolled in a specialized setting like kanang naa sa Deaf Institute nga mga estudyante, they are like the same. They have the same needs. Like it's specific and intended for students who are deaf. Okay, so in practical terms, specialized settings are tailored to a specifically designed instruction as well. So since it's specialized settings, it is also, the lesson, the instructions, or ang ilahang curriculum is specialized as well, like tailored to a specifically designed instruction. So it addresses their individualized education program or IEP goals, accounts for their disability, provides modifications or adaptations to content, and encourages access to the general education curriculum. So, from the word itself, specialized settings, makakam up dito sa atong unaw na murag specialized special settings nga like for example, if it is a deaf institute, then that means all students enrolled in this class are deaf because it's a specialized settings. It's only exclusive for deaf people or hard of hearing learners, like that. So, and if the child's performance tells us teacher, like we future teacher, that the kid is improving, like makasabot siya and maobserbaran na to nga makahalubilo na bitaw siya sa mga other kids, like normal kids. They are normal pero katong mga kids nga kanang walay disability, like that, then that kid can access to general education. They will be given kanang a chance or an opportunity nga maka work together with those kids. So I have encountered this kind of situation during my work immersion days, wherein na-assign me ato sa kindergarten school, kindergarten classroom, kay every after 2 weeks mag-change man ang grade year level nga amo ang atuan. So that time we are assigned in a kindergarten class, and we have a student nga gikan gid siya sa SPED class na transfer sa normal nga kindergarten classroom, kay it's because ang performance sa bata kay nag-improve ba, and then nakita sa teacher na pwede siya nga makahalubilo sa uban bata, and these called mainstream settings, which will be further discussed by Luis Arc Digamo.
Thank you so much, Adeline, for that meaningful report. Now let us continue the discussion with me. By the way, I am Luis Artigamo, and I will be discussing the other type of education setting, which is mainstream setting. Under the mainstream setting, we have two concepts such as general education school and self-contained classroom. Also, I will be the one who will talk over about the pros of different education settings. Before that, mainstream settings should ensure that the needs of all students are addressed and that all barriers which can potentially hinder their participation be removed. Thus, to achieve that, inclusive mainstream settings should provide inclusive and accessible school infrastructure, learning methods, and pedagogies, as well as teaching and learning materials, among others. In that way, it would be easier for the teachers as well as students to maximize their full potential. General education schools under the mainstream setting. Students are taught through spoken language in a public or private school, where they join a class of typically hearing peers. Deaf and hearing students are in a one learning environment. In this setting, deaf students can utilize a variety of supports, including, but not limited to, sign language interpreters, amplifications, assistive hearing technology such as hearing aids and cochlear implants, speech to text closed captioning, and note taking services. Self contained classrooms also under the mainstream setting. Students are taught in a self contained classroom within a public or private general education school. Educational philosophies and languages of instruction vary by individual school and district. In self contained classrooms, deaf and hard of hearing students may be placed exclusively with other deaf and hard of hearing peers or with other special education students. Some deaf children exclusively attend a mainstream program. Others join select mainstream classes for part of their day. Students may receive accommodations such as itinerant teachers or the traveling school teachers. So, itinerant teachers, these are teachers who are specialized mostly in healthcare and in the field of special education. Interpreters, assistive technology, note takers, and aides. So, unlike from general educational schools where hearing students and deaf students are mixed in a one learning environment, self contained classrooms are that deaf and hard of hearing students are placed with other deaf and hard of hearing students or with other special education students. So we have already discussed the cons of having different educational setting. Moreover, we have here the pros of different education setting. First is it provides more opportunities, and second is better access. More opportunities for socialization and identification with the deaf community and better access to school curriculum. Mainstreaming in general education settings provides students with the opportunity to socialize with their hearing peers. And with that, for our third pro, which is they learn and improve their skills to adapt to environments dominated by hearing people. For the fourth advantage, it will better prepare for the real world. The deaf or the special education students will be prepared for the real world. Deaf advocate Ahmed Khalifa has shared how many people believe that general education settings better prepare deaf students for the real or hearing world. And lastly, it promotes inclusivity because of different educational settings, there is an increasing demand for deaf students to be included in general education setting.
Next is the cons of different educational settings. So I have here four lists of cons, and these four summarizes the many lists um, about the cons of different educational settings. So first is insufficient budget for school construction. So if we're going to talk about different educational settings, that means also nga we need schools, we need rooms for these children, and schools may be unavailable due to the lack of budget to cover new school construction costs. And this one is connected to the second, which is high cost for school construction. See, mahal ang mga materials. School construction unit costs are predominantly determined by school design, construction materials, and contract procurement and management. Mahal ang mga materials, but then our budget is insufficient, which kanang nahimong problem bitaw, especially nga kailangan tag rooms but then we don't have enough budget. Number 3, schools are required to provide special education services but may not be given additional financial resources. So, this is not kanang exclusive for schools only nga kailangan kanang ma-provide tag mga special service. It also ma-appeal ang mga teachers sa ani kay it's because especially sa mga teachers kay kanang we need to exert more effort, look for ways unsaon nga para masabtan sa mga bata ang lesson nga kanang ma-retain sa ilang hunahuna ang lesson. And with that, sa kanang pag-exert og effort, we need resources, like for example printers or bond papers or art materials. And because of that kanang pag-exert og effort, nanginahanglan ta og mga materials and we don't have financial resources. Wala tayong mga kanang money. We're a lack of that, which is hard. Lisod kayo kay taas ang demand pero kanang lack bitog financial resources. Mo na nga usahay ang mga teachers kay kita mga teachers na lang ang mangitag ways unsaon nato nga para makasabot ang bata kanang masabot nato nila ang lesson. And also number 4, students may only learn and interact with peers or with sa ilang mga classmates, especially sa specialized settings wherein we already know nga sa specialized settings, in a room, in a classroom kay puros mga, for example, puros mga deaf or hard of hearing learners, which is lisod nga mag-convert, like for example lisod bitaw sa bata nga makighalubilo sa uban nga mga tao kay it's because naanad ang bata nga iyang kuyog kay iyang mga classmates, iyang mga kadang mga deaf students sad nga pareha niya or hard of hearing kay di ba we all know nga specialized settings is exclusive only for those students nga ingana, which is hard for them na nga makig-interact sa uban tao. And that's it for the cons of different educational settings. Thank you.
Now, let's call on Lara Angelica Lupo to discuss about the history of deaf education. Thank you.